Government and its roles. Introduction. As we discussed earlier in this course, the state is a contemporary framework for the conduct of politics. Since the state is an abstract entity, and it is through government that people can actually feel the impact of it, it becomes important for us to have a discussion on government. In this study session, you will be exposed to the basic components of government and the role of government as an agency through which the state formulates and implements her policies. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this study session, you should be able to discuss basic components of government and highlight and explain the major roles of government as one of the crucial concepts of politics and an agency of the state. Basic components of government. Government is that decision-making and enforcing agency in a state that controls a monopoly of legitimate use of force. This definition highlights three crucial components of government: decision-making and enforcement. Government exists to make and enforce decisions. All human society needs to make a collective decision as to the ends, that is, wants of the society, and the best means of achieving them. Government is the highest and the most formal level at which such decisions are taken or implemented. The decisions, like what type of economy strategy should Nigeria take to wipe off armed robbery, to reduce poverty and eliminate corruption. Source of coercion in social affairs. Government is the ultimate source of coercion in social affairs. If collective decisions must be implemented or enforced, there must be some form of collective agency with a monopoly over the use of force. This agency is the government. While the use of force or threat of the use of force is not always advisable, it may be unavoidable in instances where groups of individuals resist or violate collective decisions. Legitimacy. Government conduct is normally seen as legitimate. Legitimacy refers to an acceptance by the people that it is right for government to seek and receive the obedience of the citizens. In other words, the government is popularly accepted and authorized to govern. Compared with other institutions in the society, the conduct of governmental institutions is usually seen as legitimate. Roles of government. Contract, collective action, and a desire to maximize social well-being all generate possible roles for government. This is according to Michael Lava in Eric Rowe, Modern Politics: An Introduction to Behavior and Institution. Roles of the government are hereby discussed. Contract enforcement. We must all deal or enter into contract with people. However, only very few deals can be contracted that does not involve enforcement. These few deals are those that depend on mutual trust or involve individuals in a small or closely integrated community. In other words, the enforcement of contracts may not be necessary among individuals who trust themselves or live in a small community where members are no strangers to each other and are expected to deal with each other from time to time. In this situation, deals may not need to be enforced. However, most deals or contracts involve a collection of individuals who are not in continuous interaction or do not share a sense of community. The temptation to double-cross or be dishonest is therefore very high. In this context, contracts need to be enforced and a role for the government emerges. Collective action. Where there is need for a project that will benefit all, but no individual is prepared to contribute towards it, there is a problem of collective action, which creates a role for the government. Basic elements of problem of collective actions are: 1. Almost all private actions have public consequences, either in form of social benefits or social costs. 2. Some private actions may not produce private benefits only, but also social costs, while other private actions may entail private costs but produce social benefits. 3. Social costs and benefits produced by private action have an indiscriminate influence on society. In other words, the cost cannot be suffered by one and the benefits enjoyed by another. Any attempt to exclude another from the cost or benefits will almost invariably exclude everyone. 4. Except in very special circumstances, individuals will not voluntarily continue to incur private costs to produce social benefit or forgo private benefit to reduce social cost. 5. The effect of all these is that social costs will tend to increase and social benefits tend to decrease. Government can solve collective action problem by encouraging, supporting, or even assuming responsibility for private actions which produce social benefits. Social well-being or welfare. In order to make the society a better one, it may be necessary to help some individuals or groups at the expense of others. For example, it may be necessary to help the poor at the expense of the rich in order to increase the overall social welfare. In the absence of government action, however, the distribution of resources from the rich to the poor may be resisted by the rich. Indeed, the privileged members of the society usually argue that social inequality is necessary for economic efficiency and productivity, and that any attempt to redistribute wealth is bad because it suppresses competition and creativity. Redistribution that increases social welfare will tend therefore to depend on the use of authoritative sanction or legitimate coercion by government. It is significant that every government that is established is expected to perform some certain duties. The primary duty of government, as you know, is the maintenance of peace and order. Study session summary. This study session has revealed that government as an agency of the state makes and enforces decisions. It has monopoly of legitimate use of force. It is the ultimate source of coercion, and its conduct is always seen as legitimate. According to Michael Lava, 3 major roles are generated for the government to perform. These include contract enforcement, responsibility for collective action, and the desire to maximize social welfare. End of study session 6. Thanks for listening.